good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, you thirsty bunch of beer drinkers, whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. Thank you for pressing play and supporting a Canadian podcast. I'm Troy Birch with Great Lakes, Ontario's local brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery based in Etobicoke who brings you this here Between Two Fermenters, the podcast where craft beer and conversation collide straight from the tanks to your ears. Today on the pod, I'm proud to welcome my boss, Peter Bulut, back to the show. Peter, owner and president of Great Lakes Brewery, first appeared way back on episode 1. He and Mike Lackey helped kick off this whole project, this whole thing, setting the tone for what Between Two Fermenters would become. And for any skeptics out there, today's episode is totally unscripted. As I'm told, real professional podcasters say it's going to be real talk. So 50 episodes as well. Today, 50. This is episode number 50. That feels like worth raising a glass to. So I am going to crack open a beer before we get into the intros here. And I'm having a Lagerville, a brand new beer that we just released today. Before I bring Peter on, I want to take a moment just to talk about Between Two Fermenters itself. Because over the last 50 episodes, we get asked this one particular question all the time is, why do we do this podcast? And the second one is, why does GLB continue doing this? And I want to say it's not to make any money. It really isn't a marketing move. It's definitely not to get podcast fame. It's really to capture the voices of the people, past, present, and the future, who have built, are building, or will build great things in the Canadian craft beer industry. It's our way of documenting our place in time, the challenges, the triumphs, the highs and lows, the stories that inspire, and the ones that teach. It's the stories. Our industry is so rich with stories. Capturing them and sharing them. It's part of our mission as Ontario's local brewery, friends with all, stewards of craft beer, using our platform to shine a light on others in the industry. That's why we do this podcast. So now back to 50 episodes. It feels like the right moment to offer just a few thank yous. So first to Mr. Mike Boone, aka Toronto Mike, who has supported the show from day one. Woo! From letting us use his basement studio to recording, editing, and publishing each episode for us. So Mike, thank you. If you haven't checked his podcast out, check it out, Toronto Mike. And to today's guest, Peter Bulut, thank you for allowing me to run with this podcast on behalf of GLB, and to all the GLB teammates. The encouragement and support is awesome, and it means everything. And every guest who's been here, and to those who haven't joined us yet, we're just getting started. So thank you for spending some time with us. And the last thank you goes out to you, the listeners, the craft beer supporters, the drinkers of local beer. Thank you for supporting the show and tuning in each episode. All right. Now that we've said all that, I'm going to reintroduce today's guest. It's been almost 36 years since Peter's father asked him if he wanted to get into the beer business. Peter was 21 years old, and the obvious answer was hell yes. And today, we get to dive back into that story and everything that's come since. We're going to revisit the GLB history. We're going to get into how things started from Peter's perspective, how struggles along the way help shape the brewery today, and how GLB continues to push forward in the seemingly never-ending changes retail landscape. You'll hear about Peter's leadership style, what beers he enjoys, what he learns each time he travels to Germany, and what's next for GLB. We're going to get into all that and more, so buckle up, grab a fresh one, and let's get at it. Hang tight. We'll be right back with Peter Bulut.
It's Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery. We believe in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. It's Great Lakes Brewery. Order online for free local home delivery. In the GTA, good times and amazing beer. That's GLB.
Good morning, Mr. Bulut.
Good morning, Troy Birch.
Thank you for making the long and arduous travel time over to Mr. Mike Boone Studios in glorious Etobicoke.
Well, it was my pleasure, and it was even easier because you drove, and all I had to do was sit in the passenger seat and hit the warm button.
There you go. Well, I got a beer for you. I let normally on these episodes I choose the beer and bring the beer over for the guest, but today I said,
well, I'm your boss.
Fairness, so. That's right. I said you get to choose what beer you get to drink, and which one are you going with?
I went with the Super Light.
Why'd you go with that one?
Because it's morning, and it's super light.
3.2%, lots of flavor, and it's you don't have to have that choice between just a random light lager. Now you can have all the nice light body but full flavor. 3.2%.
True. I really love this label. It's totally retro. It's like a gas station kind of thing
from the 50s,
Shell or
60s.
Exxon.
You were the first guest on the very first episode of Between Two Fermenters. I went back and gave it a re-listen this morning. We didn't get too much into the history of the brewery, but your beginnings. I mean, so we touched on it, but I thought we'd kick things off with the beginning of GLB in your words.
Okay.
When someone asks you about GLB, the beginning, what's the story you give them?
Well, I think what I always go back to is, I was in college taking a construction engineering course, and I thought my life I was going to be in construction and building, developing things. And then, Dad met Bruce Cornish. I want to say it was summer of 90. That's when he started trying to woo my dad into taking over this brewery. And so Bruce was also not only owned a brewery, but he was a mechanic by trade. And so my dad had a bunch of construction equipment. And so he put Bruce to work and had him fixing all the equipment and servicing it. And I think he was just using that, obviously, for cheap repairs, number one, because he was very frugal. And also a deeper thing was just trying to get to know him and make sure that this guy's, not crazy or whatever. And I think that it took Bruce that long to convince him, or Dad had that much equipment to fix. And I think, by memory, I want to say it was just like the last couple of weeks. He was talking about, there's this brewery. I didn't go see it or anything. He was just mentioning it, obviously being very thirsty weekend beer drinker. And I was all over the gambit back then in terms of brands that I would drink. We can talk about that after. But basically, it was, son, I'm thinking about this brewery. What do you think? And obviously the answer was, hell yeah. Like, of course, Dad, this is a great idea. And so he just kind of pushed on. We didn't really talk much about it. I was finishing school. I graduated. I goofed off for about a week. And then it was basically like, let me jump in the car and see what the hell they're doing up there. And I walked through the door, and then I never left.
Why did your dad want to get into beer?
So it was funny. He always told me the story about when he was, previous to leaving the communist Yugoslavia, he fled there on a rowboat, which is another story. His dad told him, when you go to America, son, you should go into two businesses. Either A or booze.
And he chose
booze. Yeah, beer.
But so that was the whole, like he came to Canada, he eventually got to Canada and he got into construction. But what was it about beer specifically? Was it just an opportunity at that time?
Yeah, he was an entrepreneur by heart, for sure. He came to Canada, landed at Pier 21 with $20 in his pocket. And when he landed there, they told him you got a one-way train ticket to anywhere in the country. And I guess on the boat, everyone was talking about Winnipeg. Oh, you should go to Winnipeg because there's lots of work there. So when he got to the counter and said, where do you want to go? He said, Winnipeg. And he started out in there and just basically to do anything that would pay money. And he did a bunch of stuff. This would take too long. But anyway, he ended up starting to do like painting and light construction and some framing. And he learned how to do that. And then he got to Toronto because the work was drying up in Winnipeg. And he started working with bricklayers, like some of the old, like Dufferin Construction when they had first started out in the 60s. And he got to know those guys. And anyway, he really evolved in construction, and then he started building things to sell them. And then once he had enough cash, he started building things to keep them and rent them out like strip malls. Mm-hmm. And so we had a whole crap load of strip malls, and things were going quite well for that. And then it was a Greek landlord that held the keys for Great Lakes in Brampton. And it was through the real estate guy to the Greek landlord and said, hey, there's a brewery here, and, you know, I've locked them out, and we're trying to figure out what to do with this. And so that's how we met Bruce on site, and then started, like I mentioned, started hanging out with Bruce, and just could see opportunity there because he could also speak Greek. His mom was Greek, my grandmother, my yaya. And back in the 90s, all of the taverns in Toronto and beyond were either owned by Serbians or Greeks, or Croatians as well, of course. But majority were Greeks. And so he just started driving around to these taverns and talking to the guys. And, you know, when you speak in the mother language, now it's like my brother. And they said, yeah, we'll support you. We'll buy your beer. And so he said, all right, that's why we're going to do this brewery.
Nice. And you said you just graduated and you got in the car one day and you drove up to Brampton to see what it was all about. The day you decided that you were going to work in the brewery, do you remember your emotions on the day you walked in and you just looked around and said, this might be for me?
Yeah, I still have the picture of the space when I went, and it was really, really nice and clean, and they had a retail store in the front, kind of very like office-y, and then in the back there was nice tiles on the floor, and the system was really small. It was 18 hex, 1,800 liters, and it was super clean because there was no mill, there was no malt. They were brewing with a malt extract, which is basically like beer syrup, concentrated beer syrup that you just throw in boiling water.
Yeah. What amateur home brewers would be using.
Yeah, pretty much. But I guess for them back then, that was a really inexpensive way to get going with an electric kettle that Bruce probably hooked up by himself. And they had 2 fermenters, 2 aging tanks, and 1 bright tank. And they were all 1,800 liters. So, you know, when I went there, like I said, it was really nice and clean and it looked cool. And even though the tanks were small, to me, I wouldn't back then have known small versus big. And I got pretty excited and thought this is cool. And, you know, start drinking as soon as I showed up there. So, and they were, you know, there was no messing around. The beer they were bottling in 1 liter bottles. So it was
1 liter plastic bottles.
1 liter green PET plastic bottles. Yes.
So walk me through those first days with the company, your first days with the company. What were you doing? And how would that help you in the future years leading GLB?
So I think, well, very quickly, I don't know how he knew, but Dad knew that beer is not made from syrup. It's made from grain. And so, unfortunately, there was a lot of breweries closing back then. And I think majority of our equipment came from the former Connors Brewery. So we had stuffed in this little 2,800 square foot warehouse, 7 5,000 liter tanks, mash lauter ton, and a mill. And they ended up putting the mill up on a mezzanine, and it was gravity flowing into the mash lauter ton. So talk about some of the early memories. It was me driving to Canada Malting on Queens Quay. I think it was the Bathurst location.
Yep.
And showing up with the van there, and that's where the bag plant was there, where those silos are. And by memory too, the land was different, or maybe it wasn't Bathurst, because when I look at Bathurst now, there's more water than I remember there being around. But I remember, like, you know, going into this really old building, and these bags would come down this chute. And back then there was no weight limit, so the bags, they were 100-pound bags, and I was probably 140, 50 pounds. I don't know. It was only 20, 21. So it'd load the van with like 25 bags, and it would be like doing that, you know, the Cheech and Chong back end is like dragging, and then from Toronto driving back up to Brampton, and then you hand bomb those things onto a skid.
It's a good workout.
And then you throw a bag over your shoulder and you climb up a ladder so that you could dump it into the mill because it was gravity. And it was by memory, we could only do 1,800 liter batches because that was a kettle. I can't remember how many bags were in each brew, but I remember being sore.
Yeah.
And then my dad would always tease us like, come on, you wimps. I'll put 2 bags and go up that ladder. So he put the first bag on, then he made me put the second bag on his shoulder so he could climb up the ladder, which he almost fell or broke the ladder. But he had to show me how much stronger he was than his 21-year-old son, which he was, by the way.
So those first days you were brewing?
Grunt. Yeah, and brewing and learning how to brew.
Yeah.
Bruce was really amazing back then, like explaining stuff and teaching. And, it was basically one recipe. We had one beer. So it was simple to watch and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And so, yeah, I could brew beer early on. Not that I could have done any recipe changes or anything, but I could follow a recipe. It's like, baking a cake.
Yeah.
And you do it enough. I definitely knew how to handle the grain bags. So.
And you were going around to the bars and restaurants too, doing any deliveries or just
for
a bit
sure.
of everything?
But at the beginning, for the most part, in the brewery, and just because, say for instance, we bring 7 fermenters in, then you need electrical stuff and solenoids and pieces and chiller, and so they would just say, oh, we don't have this. Go to the electrical supply. Oh, go to the plumbing supplier. Like I was just gopher, like what at that age too, and I was pretty disciplined. I just did whatever I was told.
Well, based on that, you get a good lay of the land. You're learning every little aspect of the business. Would you say that was your training to be where you are today?
Oh yeah, for sure. But that never stopped. Like that training stuff went on for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or more, actually. They talk about the 10,000 hour thing. I think I'm at 60,000,
yeah. Like, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did touch on it just briefly, but you finished school and you could have had another path going into the other side of the business, which was the construction side of the business.
Totally.
But what was it for you that you said, I'm going to stick with the beer side?
Well, there was a project going on simultaneously. Dad had started one of these strip malls, and so the timeline is a little bit foggy, but basically there was a time where he said, okay, I don't need you at the brewery. I need you to be on this construction site. So I did actually stay on that construction site. I remember through the whole winter, and I'll take a gander that it was probably 92. Cause I was working with Christian Musico, and I remember because it was over Christmas and we had the GLB Christmas party, which my dad would always, have a big lamb baked. Basically, he'd go to a bakery and he'd buy the lamb fresh, and he always wanted, you got to have lamb. We got to have lamb. So
I like that idea for us now.
Yeah. So we were on this site after the Christmas party, over the Christmas holidays, working, and we had all the leftover lamb. So we just kept it in the truck, so it was frozen. And then I can't remember if we heated it on fire or if we had a little generator and a microwave. I'd have to ask Christian, maybe he'll remember. But I don't know, I think for a week we ate lamb exclusively because there was so much leftover. But we were on site there for months and months. In the dead of winter, I remember just freezing my butt off because the building was just like in the middle of construction. There was no, it wasn't closed. There was no heat. Like the roof wasn't on yet. But I got some good construction experience too. I worked with bricklayers. I was the laborer, and those guys will mess you up so bad, especially when you don't really know what you're doing. They just yell at you different commands and try to confuse you and just use you like a little dog. And so you learn fast, and you're carrying a lot of bricks and blocks, and then driving the forklift and you're basically feeding them. So we got a mixed mortar, give them bricks and blocks, and they would just yell at, hey, I need more mortar. Hey, I need more bricks. Hey, I need more. And you're spinning. And anyway, so I had some dabbling back into construction as well, which is great experience. And then once that was all sort of licked up, I was back at the brewery, and I say by memory again, it was probably the end of that summer. So it was sort of on and off with the brewery in 92. Probably right from winter right through to the end of summer, I think, is when we had finished and started leasing that building up.
So, but you got back to the brewery, and you decided I don't want to freeze my butt off every winter in construction? Is that what it was that you wanted to stay with the brewery, or was there a decision made that you and your dad made saying, I want you to run the brewery?
Yeah. So no, I still wasn't really running the brewery at that point, 92, 93. Mm-hmm. But there was a decision not to do any more construction. Like he wasn't buying any more land and no plan to do any building. The focus was the brewery. Because things were getting like so busy and we were growing so fast back then, it was unbelievable.
So looking back on it, were you happy with that decision to stay in the beer?
There was a time that I wasn't, I'll be honest, because there was so many downs, you say up and downs, there was a lot of downs. And I think, like now I'm super happy. It's super cool. The last, 12, 13, 14 years or whatever have been fantastic. Because we had, the growth that we did and the renovations that we did and cleaning the place up and new windows on the building, like all that kind of stuff. That was fun. And that was really rewarding that we were able to do all that stuff. But prior to that, it was pretty dark and times were really tough. And that was a lot of time that, man, if we stayed with construction, you'd see Toronto, what happened in the last 25 years, even from 10 years ago and 15, 20 years before that. Dad had a great little model started, and had we kept going with that, I guarantee you that we would have been like condo developers, like big condo developers, as we would have evolved into that, because he had a good base. And imagine in 91, he already had 5-6 buildings owned and fully leased, slowly paying the mortgages off. Cash was starting to flow. We weren't making a ton of money, but at the same time, the property values were increasing and mortgages were slowly getting paid. So anyway, yeah, that trajectory would have been probably really cool and profitable compared to, starving at the brewery and not really taking the paycheck home and like all the woes that a lot of guys still talk about today. Fortunately for us, it did take, as our outside accountant guy says, yeah, you're an overnight success, 30 years in the making. Yeah.
That's a good name for a beer one day. So we touched on it a bit briefly, but what was the move like from Brampton to Etobicoke to the present day location? Moving a brewery is challenging enough, but based on my understanding, both breweries were open at the same time?
Yeah.
So,
no, sorry. No. So by my very sharp memory, I always say that was a lot of beers ago.
Yeah.
Like speaking of,
time for a chip.
So Mike Lackey came in the picture sort of midsummer, July-ish, as him and I were reflecting just last week. And basically, so those 7 tanks that we stuffed in, they had to get down. So I think it was August, my dad found the Queen Elizabeth building that we were currently in. And they started to renovate it right away for the brewery. And then they bought the brew house from York Brewery that closed at the time, and all these Connors tanks. And there was another brewery that he bought a whole bunch of stuff from. Everything was used. I don't think we bought anything brand new. There was just so much, just like right now, there's so much equipment on the market. And if it's not happening at auction, it's sitting in a building somewhere waiting for a new owner. And so they started August, cutting the drains, and then at one point they pulled all those 7 tanks out of the Brampton spot and set them all up there. Got the brew house going, the keg line. We bought these beautiful aging tanks from Price Sandstrom. They were amazing, horizontal, very German style, stainless, and they were all racked up vertically. Horizontal tanks, like a 6-pack on laying on its side.
Yeah.
And so Mike and I were left brewing at Brampton, and yeah, we didn't make very good beer there. We didn't know this, but on the electric kettle, you've got to really clean and power wash the elements. Otherwise, from the grain, it would stick on it, and then it would start to burn. And then we actually burnt the beer. A couple of batches we had to throw away. Dad wasn't very happy, but we didn't know anything.
A good learning opportunity.
Yes. But literally, like if you ever burn pudding or you burnt anything, sort of food, soup or what, it all tastes the same. It's just like burnt, and it's horrible.
But you guys drank some of that beer.
Oh, I had to, of course. We still
that's part of the GLB lore.
That's right.
Those early years you spoke about, like burning beer, the dumping. On the first podcast you touched on it, 2006 I think it was, or no, sorry, before that, 2004. But the brewery wasn't making a lot of money. There was a lot of issues going on. And you had to let someone go. There was spoiled, infected beer, dumped the whole brewery.
Yep.
So 1992 to 2010.
Wow, that's a big.
It's a huge
zone, dude.
But I don't want you to go through the whole thing. But Cole's notes. What were those years really like at the brewery? You just touched on a lot of it, but
yeah, sure. So it was like mass success. Beer was just flowing. Lackey will talk about it. Like. We were doing, I think it was like 1,000 kegs a week.
Of just lager.
Just lager.
Yeah.
One beer, we had these huge aging tanks because Dad bought all this stuff from Molson's Fleet Street when it closed. And we were turning a tank a week. It was 56,800 liters tank. And every week we were filtering it and kegging it. And that went on for a long, long time. And so things were just bursting. And then Dad felt like, oh, we're getting big. We need professional people. Like we should have more professional people around us. So we hired brewmasters, like retired brewmasters from other big breweries that I won't mention. And so they were probably really good at a command center in a brew house for the big brewery, but they weren't really super hands-on, and they were also learning how to brew in a smaller scale and to oversee, and they screwed things up really bad. And so the whole brewery at that point, it was infected. And we had to dump everything. And then the accounts didn't want our beer anymore because we made shitty beer. And took a long time to rebuild. Mm-hmm. So as part of the rebuilding, we had another brewmaster, young guy. And he could brew very well, and he understood quality, and things started improving, but he had really bad attitude. And so I ended up letting him go. And then I took over brewing for a number of years until Callie came on board. And then Callie stayed with us for 20 whatever years it was. So jumping through. So yeah, that was like 98. Callie was 2001 or 2 or somewhere there. Cause I remember our kids were very similar age. It was probably 2002.
Yeah.
And then 2 to 10, things started getting a little bit better. We were sort of heads above water a little bit. Beer quality came back up. We started getting more accounts. Then we decided to make an effort to get more into craft beer as opposed to just making lager. 2006, the federal government gave us some excise tax reprieve, which was huge for us back then. I think we were just shy of 10,000 hectoliters, and that meant $250,000 for us, which was all basically 100% profit. And so then now we had some budget to do things with our glass bottles and cans, and having some co-packing done on site for us. The first mobile can guy that was out back then, doing our Devil's Pale Ale. And then, the story, Winter Ale in 2006, and Pumpkin 2007, Orange Peel 2008, and that sort of catapulted more budget because we were putting these beers out and they were actually selling, and we were making money on them. And
some of those brands were like earth-shattering. Like Pumpkin Ale back then no one was doing one, and people were going nuts over flavored beer.
100%. Actually. And then flip 2010, which is where I'm going to stop. That's when Canuck came out, and we had some dedicated craft salespeople going for a little more of the, I don't want to say nicer bars, but different area for us. And it expanded our palates. We started, I think it was 07 or 08. We started going down to the US, the craft brewers conferences, and seeing what they were doing, and just blown away by how strong and, I would say flavorful, but at the time it was like poison, the IPAs back then. It seemed like it to me, with being a lager flogger. And then you drink a Stone Arrogant Bastard, and we were in the tap room at Stone. I'm like, and the place is just packed. And I'm like, how are people drinking this beer?
I remember there was it's still a GLB staff member who said it was just a fad. Like IPAs are going nowhere in this industry.
Oh.
And so he probably is not listening to this, but if he is, he'll know exactly who he is talking about. So during that time too, there was a big shift at the brewery, not just with the beer and the.
Well, let me stop you. Sorry, because I can't go from whatever you said, 90 something to 2010. Because in 2009, my dad passed.
Well, that's where I was going with this. Yeah. He passed away in 2009, leaving you. Were you the president before that?
No. I was vice president.
Vice president. Okay. And he wasn't, to my knowledge, well known in the industry, but again, those were the early days. So before you touch on his passing, what were some of the things he did for beer? And for what kind of mark did he leave on GLB?
Oh, well, it was still around that time, that 98 to 2002, where he wasn't having as much fun with the beer. And because the company started evolving, it was a little too much for him, because a lot of those Greek guys were slowly starting to close. The market was shifting. It was just it was changing. Like the taverns were dying. The no smoking in the bars kind of hurt those kind of bars, and they were just falling off the rails. And him, with the entrepreneurial spirit, he was seeking other ventures, and so he basically just said, "You run the damn thing, and don't ask me for any money." And we did pretty good. He had to pump in once. We needed a cash injection, but other than that, we were self-sufficient. But credit cards, my personal credit cards max, company credit cards max, like we're just like paying not minimum, but we're just getting by. And I remember a couple times telling staff, like, "Hey man, I just gave you this check, but can you cash it on Monday?" Yeah, because we got to do a bank deposit before you do that kind of thing.
The famous story Lackey always says is he would pray on his delivery routes to Ottawa that, "I know if I go to this place, I'm going to get enough money from the account to get gas and a meal to get home."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So what kind of mark did he leave on?
I think it was more, again, he started going all over the place, from Barbados to Africa to Ukraine, Hungary, just all kinds of crazy countries trying to do something in a really large way, like multi-million-dollar electrical contract, or 500 condos in Barbados. And he was seemed like he was working on things simultaneously. Nothing really super stuck, but he had land, and he had a claim in Africa. He was mining there, like all kinds of stuff, man. And at that time, that 2005, 6, kind of 7, is when I was begging him to stop traveling and hang out at the brewery more and do some stuff. But for the mark that he left there was really just for me personally, it was just the work ethic and how much how hard you had to work at the brewery to just stay alive. Yeah. And I can honestly say, like, I would work easily, it's no problem, 7 days a week, 10 plus 16 sometimes, brewed a package, and it was not easy. And thank God I had, as time evolved, I got married in 99, and thank God, my wife was pretty patient and understood entrepreneurial stupidity, where you're literally just working like a SOB. Yeah. So I spent a lot of my youth and my fun times were
at the brewery.
At the brewery working.
Every nook and cranny of that space, don't you?
Oh yeah.
So he passed away in 2009, and you were running the brewery. You took over the leadership, and what was the first big change you wanted to make after that?
No, I don't think there was any sort of like, "Oh, he's gone now, I can do this." There was nothing monumental. It was basically hold the course, because we were already on a great path, for development and recipes, and letting Lackey play on the pilot system so much as he did, and just experimenting. And then, some luck stuff that came our way too, that I always think of the having our beer at the Olympics. That was a big deal for us, even though it was just like in an Ontario pavilion or whatever, but it was a nice thing for the brewery to shout out to our customers and people like, hey man, we're at the Olympics. Like,
we're not just lager floggers
that's
anymore.
right. Yeah. And some of the branding back then, if you look at it now, it looks really silly, but back then it was kind of fun and it was very unique. And we just sort of kept that fun, unique, try to be first with almost every style that came into the province. I know that on the juicy hazy side, we Lackey also, he didn't feel like that was going to be a thing, so we just kind of didn't really push too hard in that direction. But we jumped on a little bit late. That's probably the only style that we didn't. I think everything else, and then winning the Canadian Brewing Awards back in 13-14, like all that stuff was. I don't think there was like any dramatic change other than, investing more back into the brewery where Dad, thought we should be saving cash and hanging on to it. It wasn't until late, like 2017, 18, where, started doing, even earlier than that, because the roof in the back, oh my God, we must have had 12, 14 buckets catching roof leaks, and so finally we had some cash and put a whole new roof on. And that was $100,000, which I never thought I'd have $100,000 to spend on roofing. And stuff like that, windows and doors and bathroom renos and just trying to clean the plant up.
Well, there was no real public washroom for retail until 2015-16.
That's right.
I remember when they started digging the holes, and it's like there's a bathroom coming. We had the outhouses or the fancy outhouse, or porta potties.
That was in between reno, but
yeah,
I don't even remember. Like if you said in 2015, did we send people upstairs for bathroom? I think.
We did. Yeah. So they had
right.
to come down the hallway where everyone...
the offices are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2010 to 2019, probably the most pivotal time, in my opinion, in the history of GLB. A beer called Canuck debuted in 2010. Introduction of the Tank 10 and 7 Barrel Series beers. The 25th anniversary, those big beers. Buying the pilot system for the 30th anniversary. Canadian Brew of the Year Awards, Golden Tap Awards. But my question, not only on all that stuff, is we had a huge growth period during that time from about 16,000 hex to approximately 30,000, so double capacity.
Yeah.
What were the biggest struggles for you as the leader of the team in scaling up, and how did you manage all the different moving parts? Because with that, new tanks have to come in, but you still have to continue brewing and more kegs and more people. And how did you manage that growth? There
was some tough parts of it. I think that the toughest parts were some of the people. You talk about team players, and we had a bunch, and then we had a bunch that really weren't. And so it was hard to grow. It was kind of a unique time. So the challenges then, like in my mind, were definitely the people. So we had, like we were doing our own deliveries back then, and you have these drivers that were great guys, but majority of them were in bands. And so they'd be out on deliveries, you give them 16 orders, and they got out late or whatever happened, and it's 4 or 5 o'clock, and they've got 4 left to do, and they got band practice. And they're like, "Oh, Pete, man, I can't finish the deliveries because I got to go to band." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, do the damn deliveries, then go to band." He's like, no, we start at 5:30 and I gotta be there because like the band's there, like we rent the space or whatever. And there was numerous guys, and this was happening frequently, and it was sort of tough there. And then on the packaging line, we started getting so busy that we needed a 6th day of running, and we were running like a shift and a half, and then guys were like not happy to. I'm not saying I was driving them to work 14 hours by any means, but to get a solid 8, that was hard. Not for everybody. We had some really amazing people because we obviously got through it and did it, but there was a lot of roadblocks and a lot of, I think, the culture was still evolving. There was a lot of trouble with that. We had some guys, there was a little bit of mixed management, if you will, because I had some help back then. And That was, in my mind, that was kind of the challenging part, was the people and evolving the culture and getting the buy-in from everybody.
Well, I was going to ask about culture, so good segue into that. People or breweries rely on passionate people that care about the industry, the product people. How do you go out and find those people? How do you keep GLBers motivated through the tough periods and slow season shifts? And
yeah, well, how do you find those people? Well, you obviously, back then we didn't have Indeed and stuff like that. We just through word of mouth or friends of friends and family and my buddy's son or whatever. And then you got to give people an opportunity, and then you see if they kind of fit into what I felt was where the culture should be and be going. And the ones that stay usually get it, and the ones that don't. Yeah. It's unfortunately it's a lot of trial and error, and we've had a lot of people come through, and I think for the most part, a majority of the people left either to advance their career in a different industry or perhaps in the same industry, and they got an opportunity, say at a bigger brewery or
they
elevated role, their own, start their own and stuff like that. But so many people have stayed at the brewery. We have so many people over the 5-year mark, over the 10-year mark, and 15, and Lackey 30.
It is really quite something when you sit back, and our AGM will be in January this year, but every year we have the slides of the employee milestones, and every year it's my favorite part of putting the deck together is seeing all, the 50% of our 80 employees are over the 5-year mark. That is quite something in this industry.
Yeah, I love that part. Like I love our team and our people. It's so cool, and I am proud that I'm leading it, and I'm proud that I brought it up to be this. Like it is literally an honor to work with everybody and to see how well they all work together. I don't hear much grumblings about internal gossip at the water fountain about somebody else. Like everyone's really cool with each other. They respect one another, and shit gets done. Like we're doing some really cool stuff.
Well, why don't you give them a shout out? That was a shout out, but give them a shout out. Give the whole crew a shout out.
But they probably don't listen to this podcast. Nah, just kidding. But of course, yeah, shout out to and a cheers to all the GLBers that to and fro, the ones that have come through my life and punched the clock and helped GLB get to where it is, and kudos to the ones that are keeping us growing, because we haven't passed a year since 2013 that we haven't grown, albeit small, the last couple, but we're still in the great trajectory and still growing. So cheers to all the GLB folks that helped make it happen and made it happen.
Beautiful. You mentioned you take great pride in building the brewery into what it is, and the team that we have and the culture that we all share. But leadership in craft beer isn't always glamorous. What's one challenge you face as a brewery owner that most listeners wouldn't expect you to have?
I guess now I'm going to get just thinking about Bruce. I can't help it. I get emotional, man. Because I care about everybody, and that's probably a fault, or a good fault or whatever you want to call it, because I worry about people. And, when Noel had that accident at home, he cut his leg open, like I semi-panicked for him, and some other guys got, stomach ailment, and it never leaves my head, and I worry about them, and because I want everyone to be healthy and happy, and it obviously both had nothing to do with any incident at work or whatever, and obviously we try to keep a very safe environment for everyone. But I guess, I worry. I still worry about everybody.
Yeah. Over the years that I've been with you, you always used to say it's a huge responsibility because, at the end of the day, I cut figuratively, you cut checks for everyone.
Yeah.
People depend on one person for a livelihood.
Yes.
So it's a massive responsibility. You just mentioned Bruce, and we mentioned on the podcast last time, Bruce Cornish, one of the original co-founders, has passed away recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a horrible accident on a riding lawnmower. He flipped over into a lake and was pinned and drowned. So he was my mentor in the 90s until I think in 94, 95, maybe even 96. Him and my dad had a falling out and Bruce left us. And then when I got complete reins of the brewery in 2012, end of 2012, Bruce called me up and he wanted to work again at the brewery, which he did from 2012 until 2017, maybe even 2018.
I think it was Christmas 2017. Yeah.
Yeah. And, he, again, through the 2012 to 17, that was like some of our biggest growth and some of our biggest, facility changes in the plant, like walls down and big, massive roll-up doors in and old big tanks out and new shiny ones in. And Bruce made it all happen. And a lot of the growth that we still feel now was because of a lot of the beginnings that he helped us, that he helped make happen. Mm-hmm. It was, again, it's always collaborative and it's team. I like to say that, I'm the visionary, but sometimes somebody says, hey, what about this? And it's like, hey, that's a great idea. We'd do that.
Yeah.
So, it's always about the team, and Bruce was instrumental in that time frame to make it happen.
You just said, listening to other ideas in a sense. How would you describe your leadership style, and has it changed since the early days to what it is now?
I don't know. I think you have to ask longer term employees if I've changed, because I don't feel so.
I think you have. If you're more hands off, if you will, you let the people do what they think is the right.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to get to that, on the hands off side, but it's mutual respect and caring. It's not, I'm not a super capitalistic, we got to grow. I need the numbers out of you little piece of crap. It's very chill and it's very collaborative. And I think, for instance, if it was for sales and it's not going the right direction, it's like, what's going on? Like, how can we help? What can we do? What do you need to make it happen? Yeah. And just sort of, encouraging others to come into the conversation, the picture. I'm pretty open book, sometimes maybe too much. And I always thought to myself, if you're a very open book and very trusting, then the people that trust you will understand it and then follow along. The ones that want to take advantage and screw you, then they're going to do that, and we'll get to that, and they'll be gone. Yeah. So
well, one of our core values is accountability, and we say trust is accountability. Breed trust, and people will respect you, and people will follow you, and work with you. Let's move over to beer, because it'd be hard to do a podcast with you and not talk about our beer. We have put out hundreds, if not thousands, of different beers over the 38 years. If you could bring back a few that we haven't done in a while, any ideas of what they'd be?
There's a few. There's a few of them I just like the branding and the brands. And may not have necessarily been my personal drinking style, but one in particular was that I always have it in my head is Limp Puppet. Yeah. And it's just that drawing that Patrick did of the puppet, all messed up. And just that's one of my favorite, one of my favorite labels, I think. He's
got a name too. I think it's Marquise Kirwin.
I didn't even know that.
And the write-up on the back of the can is priceless. Yeah. It's very good.
The ones that I'm really into now, obviously Sunnyside is my probably favorite beer. And I think that just started again from low ABV, because I'm easily getting into these super light, because I like drinking copious amounts of liquid and not being drunk. But then also obviously had a personal touch on the whole German lineup of beers that we have, and the experience that I got in Germany and the experience that I let some of the brewers have in Germany had a big impact on that liquid. And I find that it's not always awesome, but sometimes it's like so exceptional. It's like mind blowing how good it is.
So we'd say maybe like the Absacker, Frühschoppen, those brands.
Absacker specifically, for sure.
I think we just sold out of that the last run, but for listeners that like those beers, those German beers that we usually put in small cans, they're moving to larger format. They're moving
That's
to
right.
473. So you get all that glorious experience with the beer in a bigger format.
In a bigger glass you can pour it into.
Talk to me about freshness, what it means to you, what it means to the brewery. Why does fresh GLB, in your view, stand out amongst a lot of the messaging that we have?
Yeah, I think that's always been important for me and GLB, and I think it's easy for everyone to jump on board with that concept because fresh is so much better than
we were the first
stale.
We were the first brewery to do it though in 2013 to put the packaged
on date. Yep. Again, very important. And we were not hiding behind a best before date. Like, is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? Because in past, the majority of the big brewers would put 12 months.
It was a best before.
And even though they're not using a best before, they've used alphanumeric jumbo mumbo so that you don't really know what's going on. But yeah, fresh is crucial. I tell everyone now, like, we really think of the beer like milk, and it's coming off the line fresh every week, or at least every 10 days. And we don't mass produce any one particular brand, and just sort of stockpile brands. And there's a few brewers that come through that know our size. They're shocked at how many fermenters we have and what size they are, because you go to, especially in Europe, they usually have only 5-6 brands, or 4 to 6 brands, and they'll have these massive outdoor fermenters. And because they pasteurize and they do beer the way they do, they large batch run multi pallets of one particular beer, and then they just pull from that for weeks or months. Whereas we have 33 120 hect fermenters, and it's a lot more work and it's a lot more cost to run the beer that way. But I think it's part of everybody's DNA at the brewery, and as soon as they understand why we do it, they get it. And then when you drink the beer, I think you can really taste it. Yeah,
it's one of the big cornerstones of what we do. And when we bring in new people, that's one of the first things we talk about is we believe in freshness above all else when it comes to the product. And like you said, we're packaging beer today that may have already been sold tomorrow.
Correct.
And when I first started with Great Lakes, it was like the beer we were packaging today was sold last week, and we've caught up to that. And but to your point, there's no stockpiling at GLB really. I'm drinking this beer Lagerville that was packaged this morning.
Right.
So that's pretty lucky that we work in beer and get to do that. When you talk to other breweries or other brewery owners, what do you say to them about our beer?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Do you have discussions with other owners and talking about like or I don't know if you do as much these days, but back when you're more hands-on with the package or the production side of things, but when you're around like Flying Monkeys or Muskoka or your friends, when you guys are talking about beer, what do you say? Like, is there something about our beer that you're like, you guys are all talking about?
No, I mean,
I'm trying to get into your private conversations.
Yeah, stuff comes up once in a while, but most of the time it's those guys are also looking at data.
Yeah.
And because we can all see each other's data, I get a lot of compliments on how much beer we're selling and how well we're doing. I get a lot of compliments on our staff and our salespeople, especially after like the last couple of years of the conferences where we're actually the hosting or the speakers for different things. But the beer, no, I mean, if it comes up in conversation, I always use that term. Like, we treat it like milk. We small batch package like weekly. That's kind of, I would say, in terms of that, but it kind of segues into, more of the camaraderie and the relationships that I have with a lot of these, other owners and CEOs of the other breweries, because obviously founding member on the board of the Ontario Craft Brewers. And I was just telling Mandy last night from Left Field, she's like, "Oh, were you around on the board when John Hay?" I was like, yeah. And I was like, well, there was another small, it was barely a board, but back in early 2000s, which is what lobbied to get our tax reform in 2006, which I didn't have much to do with, but I was in communication and I did donate funds Curtis from Creemore back then was spearheading it was sort of the chair, if you will, without actually having a formal board.
Ontario Small Brewers Association,
or Ontario,
OSBA,
yes, Ontario Small or Ontario Microbrewers Association, I think it was. Yeah. And I remember just getting basically a phone call from him saying, "Hey, we're doing this. We're acting, on behalf. Can we count on some support?" And I was like, "Absolutely, man. Like, I'm in." And I think, being on the board and like early on, because beer used to be very secretive. You never used to share what kind of hops you were using or what kind of malt or where you bought your yeast or anything like that. Like nobody spoke of it. It was like somebody would be offended if you even asked that question.
Yeah.
Like it would be basically like, go F yourself. I'm not telling you that.
Yeah.
But then, the board and just the concept of sitting around with your competition, if you will, I call them comrades now for sure, really brought the guard down and let everybody sort of relax more and open up and then start to be more collaborative and start to have more vision and focus as to what the industry needed as opposed to a particular brewery needed.
And do you think that really benefited Great Lakes over time?
100%.
Yeah.
Like that was huge, I think, in our growth and development too, and just having those relationships with my fellow, like I said, owners and CEOs or whatever. They're all like awesome people just trying to do the same thing. And one voice, like our President Scott, like what a man. Like that gets me emotional. Never mind. Like he was just reminding, he started in 2017 and he just gives her like, he's awesome.
I think everyone that we've had on this show that has involvement with OCB has said like, he is the one guy that's really, he's doing amazing work.
Yeah. No, 100%.
You say the relationships that you've created with the other brewery owners, CEOs, people in your position. I think your leadership on that to show other GLB staff members that that's really important to their growth and the brewery's growth has allowed people like me and our other managers to go out and do the exact same thing. So we like to say we're Ontario's local brewery, and we like to have relationships with other breweries all across the province. And I'm not kissing your ass here, but I think that's something that you've really let the team run with, and you've shown, led by example, that we can do this, and it strengthens the whole industry, and we're going to benefit from it in the long run.
Yeah, a lot of the staff have meetings, lunch, communication with all levels of those breweries that we're friends with. And yeah, I think it does. It helps everybody. Like I don't think because we're not super selfish. We're not, like I said, not super capitalistic. Probably could have been a lot bigger, but I think that the culture and the human interaction was more important than the dollar and the bottom line. Obviously we need to be profitable. Like we need to make damn money.
Well, I think from looking back on what you just said is, if you do what we're doing, the money will come, the sales will come, because we're creating that atmosphere, that culture of they're good people selling a great product at a great price. They have the experience in this market. And you put it all together with just really awesome humans.
Yeah.
Then, business will follow.
Yep.
So before we talk about the future of Great Lakes, I got one last question about today's GLB. When you're sitting around with friends, doesn't matter if you're in Germany or you're in Florida or just at the pub in Etobicoke, what do you talk about?
11 Lower Jarvis, Great Lakes Brew Pub?
Or there too. What do you tell your friends when you talk about the brewery? What are some of the questions they ask, and what do you tell them about the brewery?
So, I don't know, in the last, specifically the last 2 years, I'd say, 2 years and 4 months, when I'm around with the friends, they say, "Oh, so what are you doing now?" I say, "Well, I don't want to say I've pulled back, but I've sort of get my hands. No, well, I get my hands and my ears out of some of the business that we like our day to day at GLB." Mm-hmm. And the thing I always say is that, you know what, these guys really, they get it now, and they've all evolved and they've created these teams. And so I don't sit in on production meetings. I don't sit in on packaging meetings. I don't sit on procurement with Gabe. who does an awesome job too. Buying everything that the brewers need and the packaging team needs to, like, day to day, month to month, week to week, hops, malt, lids, caps, cans, brands, like stickers. Oh my God, it's like it's unbelievable. But,
yeast, computers.
It doesn't
desks,
end.
Yeah, chairs.
But what I say to friends is, like, I got not to keep pumping the tires, but I got an amazing team and I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And I put my nose in once in a while just to see where we are and do a little check or whatever. I still have my hands on, the accounts payable. I see all like what we're doing financially. But the way the team operates, like I said, the production, packaging, procurement, that's some of the biggest stuff. And I don't have to worry about it. And I'm not worried for them. Like,
yeah.
I think they're doing a bang up job. They do it with efficiency in mind. They do it with production and streamline, and because they're thinking about the time for the people that are actually on the line. They're not just like jamming. Like, no one jams shit on anybody.
Yeah.
Starting from me.
Perfect. So let's wrap up this part of the interview with some loaded questions about the future of GLB. We never slow down. The brewery's pushing forward all the time. It seems like if we have a very big week and we're like, okay, we're going to get a breath on Monday. But then on Tuesday, boom, we're right back at it again. So Peter, answer these questions from both a brewery perspective and from a you perspective, a Peter perspective.
So before you ask me that question, I just thought of something, and I said this at the eulogy for Bruce when I did my speech there. And I'll give another shout out to him. I might get a little choked up, but what I said in the eulogy was, Bruce Cornish, he started this brewery. It was him, and what I found out, they were four silent partners, so they weren't really active at all in the business. It was just him and some employees, but he started it. And the crazy thing about a beer business is that it's never done. Like, you're never finished.
Mm-hmm.
There's no ending. And so what I said was, I have absolutely no plan to sell this brewery. The kids, it seems like they're going to both be interested at some point to come in and take it over. And so what I said in the eulogy is that, Bruce's legacy is going to go on. He started it, and like we can't finish it because it never ends. So
that's good. Yeah.
It's not like construction where you got a project that's done and you move on to the next. And sure, you could say that for some brands or whatever, but honestly, it's a living, breathing thing that just, it's like a wood fire. It just needs wood all the time.
Well, maybe you have goals like the Rittmeyers in Germany, and one day the Bulut name will live on 600 years from
there you go.
From now. And
Yeah.
Great Lakes Brewery will be one of those.
We're creeping up to 40, so we're getting there.
Another 660 560 to go.
Yeah, that's
sorry.
right.
Okay, so future that I like that though. That's it's a good forward-thinking message for the whole team too, that we're just getting started essentially. There's no plans to do anything. So where do you see GLB in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, if we get this tax reform, that's going to really help cash flow, and that'll help, the addition that we need to put on and the new brew house we need to put in, and then some more fermenters for expansion, and some more team members to join us to help us grow, and
warehousing.
I think warehouse, and there's all kinds of that sort of infrastructure-y stuff. But 5 years, I see us not like, for most part, knock on wood, but nothing changing. Like, we just keep our trajectory, we keep growing. I think, what I tell my friends too, we didn't have nothing happened fast. Like, it was like the stairs of the CN Tower, and we're at the bottom, and there's a lot of stairs to go. And I think there is, my other favorite line is like, my old man made this, he made the runway, and then I built the plane, and now, like, we got a lot of runway we can run this plane down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 5 years, it's the same. Just keep our heads up, chins up, and elbows up.
Yeah.
And just keep at what we're doing, and try to get smarter and make the beer better and better all the time. Like, I think our beer is great, but it could always be better.
Yeah.
And the guys know that too, and they're very proud of what they're making. But they also know that there's, whether it's technology or gizmos or process, it could always be better.
the 40th anniversary you just mentioned is coming up in 2027. While we haven't really addressed it yet at the brewery, do you have any we should really do this ideas?
Well, we spoke of the we should really do this idea was trying to get back in touch with a lot of the GLBers of past and inviting them. And
big reunion party, yeah.
Big reunion and a big banger, like throwing a huge bash. I think it would be, number one, it'd be a lot of fun. And number two, we could drink a lot of beer. Mike's gonna come.
Yeah, Mike.
Just we'll get a huge space, or I don't know what we'll do, but I think maybe it's at Fort York, or I don't know, something just really fun. And
you want to go big.
I want to go big, but also I want to go through the whole year. Like I really like, not to sound selfish, you could say, oh, you want to milk the year for 40. Like I just think it's a big milestone. And I've been around for, it'll be 35 of the 40 at that point. And that's a long time. Yeah. It's hard to believe it. But so for me personally, it's a big deal. And I think I want to celebrate it, and I want to share it. And I want friends and strangers and all kinds of people to know about it and come out and have a beer with us.
I think February 12th, 2027, we work with Canada Malting to get 100-pound bags just for us, and you have to carry
them up a ladder.
Yeah.
I think you carry them up the fucking ladder.
I need that workout. Any upcoming releases or projects you're excited about that you can tease?
Well, projects, like I still got it in my head. I haven't put any real cash towards it yet. But as the addition at the front of the brewery, I think is really going to be amazing. And if the vision can happen, from a city permit standpoint and a physical standpoint, I think it's going to be so cool. I was just thinking about it this morning, because I bought the brew house for it already, 3 years, coming on 3 years, I think. And it seemed pretty new at the time. It's a 2017. It's brand new used, my favorite line.
It only had 10 brews done on it.
Yeah, it wasn't very much. But every year that goes by, it's a year older. And so this new brew house, now instead of being, 6 years old, now we're coming on 9. And I'm just hopeful that I'm as happy when we build a building to install this as opposed to something newer.
Oh, I like Kevin Costner's "If you build it, they will." I guess I was Kinsella's line, but if you build it, they will come. I think the addition will be it'll be a legacy project for you, in my opinion, but it will be a really big community. The community will really respect and admire what the vision will be.
I agree.
So
that's a big part of it too, and I guess we should, if we're gonna shout out all the staff, is also the customers of GLB, because you just hang out at that tap room a few days in a row and you see some of the regulars that come, and they're like family now too. And, they know all the staff, even with the shift changes, because, we're open 7 days a week. So there's a lot of people, doing different shifts, but they seem to know everybody. And with the tent in the front now too, it's like, I don't know, it's just a beautiful community hub, and people come and share beer and laughter. And, when I don't hang out there enough. But when I do, it's like I see so many regular faces and get into chats and conversations.
When I get down there, I just give away free beer to people.
I know. I do the same thing. I'm so bad.
If we see someone that's been there for a long time, it's like, oh, take care of their bill. Take care of their bill.
Well, it's like Jack came into my office this morning, and I thought he wanted some. He just wanted to say hi, and I was just telling me he's going on deliveries, and he's got 15 orders to drop, and he said, "Oh, there's this couple that they get a keg every 2-3 weeks," and he says, "I guess they do a lot of entertaining or whatever." And to your point again, I said, "Oh, well, why don't you bring them something? Like, go grab a couple of hats or a couple sleeves of cups or something like that, and say thank you for the business." And he was like, "Yeah, good idea, thanks, Pete."
Well, I saw them loading up. They got a bunch of glassware for them. So whoever you are ordering kegs every 2 weeks, you enjoy those glasses on Peter Bulut. Finally, what kind of legacy, I mentioned legacy a second ago, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave at GLB and in Ontario beer? Not saying you're going away anywhere, but what kind of legacy?
Hope not.
We have an HR meeting right after this.
Yeah. No, on the beer, obviously, like, and I've heard a little bit of stuff like this before where customers have told me, like, you actually have the best beer in the province or in the country. And that's like super humbling. And because of course, I own the company, I personally think we do as well. I've had some damn good beer from other brewers, but
you've had some damn shitty ones too.
Well, more shitty ones for sure, unfortunately, which I still don't understand. But I think that, you know, the legacy of the quality of the beer lives on and gets better and better and better. And because there's sometimes in Germany, I've had some shitty beer in Germany too, don't get me wrong, but there's sometimes you have one and you're like, oh my like goodness. Like, oh. It's like orgasmic. It's just like, it's unbelievable. And
so I should experience that in Germany one day?
Yes, I told you can.
I really want to have an alt beer in Dusseldorf.
Dusseldorf, yeah. Schlinkela.
That's my goal. So legacy, you're thinking, is the beer, the beer.
Yeah, I think the beer and you know, maybe the time frame. You know, one day when I'm gone and people talk about how fun it was at the brewery, and I don't know, I hope so anyway. You know,
I think so. I think that's something that, you know, I've been here a long time, but I think that's something that there's a reason we have a long-term employees is it's fun. It's like you said, you're not capitalistic and saying, I demand this growth. It's, I'm okay with this growth.
Yeah.
But are you having fun at the same time? And take some time to yourself. And so
totally,
we're going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to Mr. Octopus talk about getting into fighting weight. And when we come back, we got some rapid fire questions for you.
All right, bring it on.
All right, hang tight. We'll be right back.
Hey peoples, Octo here. I like a good punch-up from time to time, but after too many donuts lately, I gotta get down to my proper poundage. So my sparring partners at GLB brewed a beer just for me, Fighting Weight Session IPA. Big flavor, but it's 3.6% ABV and only 100 calories. It's the perfect beer between training sessions, then get back to some truculent head busting. Fighting Weight Session IPA from GLB, now at the LCBO and select beer stores across Ontario. Hey, losing a few never tasted so good.
And we're back with Mr. Bulut. Rapid fire time. What beer have you been enjoying recently that's not a Great Lakes beer?
It's not a Great Lakes beer.
Yeah. This always screws up brewery owners
because they're so proud of their own beers. Yeah. They don't want to talk about other beers. But and this probably isn't the best one to speak of, but I was recently in Florida and I grabbed a case of Yingling.
Okay.
And I gotta say, I want to say I quite enjoyed it, but it's funny. Every once in a while I get a can and it's not as enjoyable out of the same case. It's really weird. But for the most part, it's delicious. And then I get some like a little metallic-y, tinny, like I don't know if they pasteurize, but maybe I don't know, something funny. But for the most part, I was enjoying them.
Nice. Still a family-owned brewery as well.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they've sold at all. So family-owned. Yeah, the Moranas were on here, the brothers, and Rolf is at the brewery today doing a collab.
That's right.
From Barvolo, and the brothers gave like, oh, they like Corona, and and Rolf was like, goddamn kids. What beer trend do you wish would make a comeback, or one wish that it would disappear forever?
Shitty non-alc could disappear.
Okay, good one. Yeah.
Like
there's so many of them.
There's so many, and lots are so bad. It's unbelievable.
I always, and again, this is rapid fire, and every single guest, we always screw it up. But when you take your eye off your main line of business to invest in a really terrible non-alc that is less than 0.01% of your sales, to me, it just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. But there's also... I like that line because this particular line, because there's sometimes we don't do things because we personally don't like it, but it doesn't mean it could make good economical sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like, 80% of the near beers are out there. There's a lot of guys selling it, and there's a lot of volume being sold. But when I drink it, I don't know how, and I can't believe people like it.
So, what's one trend you wish would make a comeback? Bud Light Lime years?
No, like I liked our fruit. I always like to say fruit and vegetable years.
Yeah.
Like the pumpkin's still around and it's delicious, but the orange peel too. And I've got two particular customers. One in particular, I went to high school with this guy, and his wife is just nuts about orange peel. And every time she sees me now, it's kind of the running joke. She's like, "When's the orange peel getting bottled?" And I was like, "Well, we don't." But she knows we don't bottle, but it's kind of a joke. But because there was some of those batches that we had out, because we were literally putting fresh orange peels into the tank and just doing crazy shit. But it was so good. Like, it was like that memory of that drinking that beer with that fresh orange flavor was really cool.
I've told this story to you. I don't know if you remember it or not, but before I worked at Great Lakes, you were launching the beer Orange Peel on a May Thursday night or something at the old Victory Cafe.
Right.
And I was blogging then, but we had known each other, and I got invited, and I went. I walked from Bay and College all the way to Bloor and Markham, wherever. Got there, and they were getting set upstairs, and you said, "Hey, let's go grab a beer downstairs." So we went down, and they had just tapped a pin or a firkin of Granite's Best Bitter Special.
Yeah.
Had one, and it was just amazing. It was like one of the best beers I've had ever, still in my mind. Then we went upstairs and drank copious amounts of orange peel ale, and it was the first big year of the release. And I can remember that you guys were giving out little fake oranges with the logo on them, and those release parties back then were pretty fun.
Yeah, I guess that's another thing that'd be fun to bring back. But I mean, we're releasing beers every week, so it's not as momentous anymore as opposed to a quarterly release.
Yeah.
To say bring release parties back, but
the last big one we did was Octopus.
A long time ago,
2018 at the old bar hop on Danforth.
That's right,
long gone, but we were definitely over the capacity.
Or we ate a lot of octopus too.
Yeah, we did. Name one brewery that consistently impresses you.
I would say Flying Monkeys, and I tell this story a lot because Pete, Flying Monkeys, is number one. He's an awesome guy, and number two, like me, he started later in the business, but they had a lot of trouble, man, like big time struggles.
Well, they almost went under numerous times in the early days.
Yeah.
Robert Simpson.
And having experienced that myself and watching him go through it, I felt bad for them. And then when he decided to turn it around to Flying Monkeys, first I thought it was absolutely crazy. This is really stupid. But I'm so happy for him and his family, and impressed as how much success that came to them from sticking to their guns. Same like us, building the team and building the culture and the brands. And he's very fiscally sharp, and so he's very. I think also, like me, he's not super capitalistic, but he's definitely sharper on the finances than I am. And he really used that to his advantage in terms of debating whether to invest in packaging equipment and robotics and stuff like that. And I think it really fared well for him, and very proud of him and his brewery.
Nice. And keeps saying he's gonna semi-retire.
Yeah, no, he's got a date now. He said, it's July, in like 2 years, July.
Okay. We'll see if he sticks.
So 2.5 years. He said he's out. No, he'll do it too.
So I guess this would be, so you'd say that they were the brewery that consistently impressed you. Name a person or brewery that continues to inspire you. Would you say the same answer, or would you pick a different one?
Yeah, I guess I don't know a lot of the ins and outs of enough of the breweries.
Something like Rittmeyer in Germany?
Wow, Rittmeyer in Germany. That's just next level stuff. Like, I mean, they have he put in so much equipment and spent so much money, because he was greenfield. He was on a farm. Like, he built a factory on farmland. And so he's got no sewer. So he does his own. Now he just put in a biogas reactor, which is creating electricity. So all his effluent is getting filtered and transformed into this machine, which was like $1 million and change euros, like multiple shipping containers, like stacked. And I don't even know what's going on. But he's making his own electricity. And then, his boiler is fed from wood chips. So, which he's getting from, when we get windstorm in the forest, the trees fall over and guys go in and clean it up and they make wood chips and then they deliver these wood chips to him and he uses a front end loader to load this boiler. Like it's just, that's just ridiculous. And then there's this little one, they call it the Gasthof, which is like guest house in Germany where they have it's a brewery and a little hotel. And I can't remember the name in German, but it's basically called Stick Brew. And that was one of the Lackey and I stayed there in the hotel. And the beer was just like one of those things. It was just like next level. Yeah. And we meet the brewer and he takes us down into the cellar, which is in the basement, nice and cold. And we're drinking out of the Schwickel pints. It was just next level. And he's got a big chimney outside and there's a stork nest on the top of it. Like it's just in the middle of the woods and just nice. Phenomenal. Yeah, there's a lot of stories like that for sure. But
name an underrated Ontario brewery.
Underrated Ontario brewery. Probably only because I spent so much time with him, but Silversmith.
Nice.
Really surprised by the recent acquisition of Black Oak, and just speaking with the CEO and just how he's got sort of same mindset as me. Just really, it's culture and people, and obviously growing sales and trying to do that in a fun way.
And that 17 Bitter Years as Neighbors, the collab we did with them was pretty bang on too.
Yep.
Best time and place for a beer.
Wherever the beer is.
If you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Sunnyside.
Sunnyside, I knew that. If you weren't in the beer or hospitality industry, what would you be doing?
Construction.
If you could have a beer with just one person in the whole world, dead or alive, famous or not, who would you choose?
Bill Murray. I want you to try to make that happen. Yeah, I want to have a beer with Bill Murray.
Someone else said Bill Murray on this show.
Probably me. Episode 1.
Someone else said that.
That's how I stay consistent. Because I've heard.
I think it was Catherine Podesen, though. I think, or anyway, we'll try to make that happen.
Because I spent a fair bit of time in New York, and I always heard rumors that he would walk into a bar, and he was already half gunned, and then he'd just like buy the house rounds of drinks and just party with everybody in the bar.
Yeah.
I know he's getting older now, so I don't know if he still rallies, but just watching him as a kid growing up on in all the comedy movies and just his demeanor, he seems a lot like us,
Yeah, he would be a fun guy to have a beer or multiple beers with.
Yeah.
Best hangover cure. So before you answer this question, I have drank with you many, many times for many, many years. You can go till 3 a.m. and wake up at 6, 7 o'clock and be fresh as a daisy. How do you do it?
So somebody told me a trick years ago. And if you don't tell anyone you're hungover, they don't know.
Oh, okay.
So fresh as a daisy? I don't know. I don't know about daisy.
You get up and make us breakfast when we're on an overnight somewhere. And
I get on a mission for sure. But I'm not the first one, like the hair of the dog kind of guy. That's usually not me, unless it's Caesar is kind of a good way to start when you're.
You have a reputation in this industry as someone who rallies from a late night. Yeah.
I can go.
Okay. Best hangover cure.
Caesar.
All right. That's it. That's all the rapid fire questions.
And greasy breakfast.
Yeah.
Greasy spoon breakfast for sure.
That's it for rapid fire. We're done. I loved all of this, Peter. I've been with you for almost 14 years now.
Oh God.
But I've known you over 17 years, and I always appreciate chats. Like we talk a lot. We know each other well, but sitting here, I've learned more stuff about you already than I did in those 17 years. So, you've been a great boss, a great friend, and I look forward to many, many more years of doing great things together.
Brilliant. Me too.
And that's it. That's all, folks. Episode 50.
50.
With my boss, my friend, a mentor, and an all-around pretty decent guy. Peter Bulut, owner and president of your Great Lakes Brewery, has moved from the mash tun to the fermenters. If you enjoyed our conversation or any other episodes, please leave a review or a comment wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode was fueled by cans of Super Light. You can find cans of this super flavorful, light-bodied, low ABV lager at both GLB retail locations, and you can find it online at greatlakesbeershop.ca for free local home delivery. Finally, a light beer for beer drinkers. No more choices need to be made between substance and satisfaction. With Super Light, you can have it all, baby. You can visit the brewery at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in Etobicoke or grab some delicious eats and fresh pours at our brew pub at 11 Lower Jarvis Street in Toronto. If you have any content you'd love to hear us discuss on the show, guest ideas, or just want to tell us what you're drinking, drop us a line at podcast@greatlakesbeer.com. Until next time, please remember to keep tipping your glass of fresh GLB in the right direction. Supporting local never tasted so good.